Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us on the program this evening. I am Nifemi Oguntoye, and we're following very closely developments at the National Assembly. Tonight, we begin with a test, not technology, but of trust. Nigeria's Senate has just held an emergency plenary after intense public backlash over amendments to the Electoral Act. At the center of that controversy was one question: how votes are transmitted, verified, and ultimately trusted in a country where elections often decide not just winners, but legitimacy. The Senate has now upheld Section 30, subsection 3 of the Electoral Act, affirming electronic transmission of polling unit results to INEC's IREF portal, while retaining Form EC8A as a fallback where technology fails. Lawmakers insist this strikes a balance between innovation and realism. Critics, however, argue that it's leaving too much discretion in the system and too much room for dispute. The decision mattered because it followed public pressure, proof that electoral credibility remains one of the most sensitive fault lines in our democracy. It also mattered because it comes as political alignments ahead of 2027 are already taking shape. Against that backdrop, governors were in Abuja for the National Economic Council Conference, where we heard President Tinubu address issues of security, terrorism, banditry, and the economy, and federal state coordination issues that sit squarely on the desks of state chief executives. Our guest tonight sits at the intersection of all of this. Governor Abdullahi Sule of Nasarawa State is appearing on this program for the fourth time. He's a two-term governor, a former corporate executive, member of the NEC, and a key stakeholder in the governing APC at the time of mass defections and heightened political calculation. Governor Sule, welcome back to Beyond the Headlines.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me again.
Well, let's begin where the country is most uneasy, and it's about the credibility of our elections. You sit at the intersection of governance and politics, which of course include issues of election. What's your reading of this call for real-time transmission of results?
Right, thank you very much. You see, the whole idea about real-time, or the e-transmission as they call it, is about credibility of elections, because Nigeria is a country where nobody loses election. If anybody loses, it's because they have rigged him. That's generally the impression. You know, if somebody enters into election and they lose, okay, so there has been rigging. That's the only way. But that is also not to say it's unfounded, because in the past, we have had a lot of situations where elections were rigged. But if you really look at the elections of 2023, where the winner only escaped with about 8 million votes, and then the other two actually were somewhere around, you know, the two of them got almost at 13 million votes, then you will know that definitely there has been some level of credibility in that election. But because of what had happened in the past, that's why people are worried. And when you talk about, you know, credibility of an election, the biggest, you know, beneficiary of credibility of that, the moment it is said, especially internationally, it will be the country. Because once they say that there has been credible election in Nigeria, then Nigerians all around the world, you know, are going to take credit for it, that at least, you know, we are changing from the past. And if there is anybody who should want that, it is Mr. President himself. You know, the president would like to say that Nigeria looks good, the image of Nigeria is excellent, Nigerians are being commended, just like the Nigerian Naira now is being commended, you know, so things like that. But I think there is a total misunderstanding of any time we see something working in another country, we believe it will work here. It is not necessarily the case. You know, you may have something that works perfectly in Ghana, perfectly in Algeria, perfectly in Morocco, and then forget even about the advanced nations. It may not work in Nigeria until you put all the structures and the basis that such a thing will work in Nigeria. And I think that is where the question is. So it is not a bad thing to have e-transmission. In fact, it is a wonderful thing to have e-transmission, you know, but we must take the steps to ensure that the e-transmission also works for Nigeria, not just to have something and then at the end of the day, because if you look at it, you know, we have so many other interventions that have taken place. At the end of the day, you know, there are still questions. So if we go in transmission now and the first thing it doesn't work, then you will hear that, because Nigerians are very, very, very intelligent people. And you have heard about hacking, and probably that's one of the concerns that people are having, because the moment you hack the line, you have heard about the American elections, where they have the e-transmission, everything, and then after some times, they say that Russia actually hacked into the line and did one or two things. So I think those are the kind of fears people have. But e-transmission is wonderful, is what is needed. Nigeria wants it. I think the president wants it. Nearly every governor also, in fact, every governor wants it, because that's the thing that will give Nigeria a very good image.
And perception is everything, Governor Sule, because it's one thing to win an election, is another thing to for Nigerians to consider that victory legitimate. Section 60, subsection 3 of that act leaves operational discretion largely with INEC. And there are conversations around whether that is healthy independence, because sometimes it's legislative ambiguity like this that invites post-election litigations. But supporters are arguing that retaining Form EC8A as a fallback is practical. On the other hand, critics are saying it reopens the door to manipulation. Does the fallback strengthen transparency, in your opinion, or dilute the promise of electronic transmission, as is widely considered what should be our next level today?
You see, the truth of the matter is that it lives with Nigerians. If we as Nigerians decide that we are going to have credible election, we are going to be honest with our directions, we are going to be that, you don't even need any technology. In the past, Nigerians actually, during the period of the Sadona of Sokoto, the Awolo, the Zik, and the rest of that, they didn't have all these kind of problems. So it is us, once we decide, there is nothing wrong with using technology, but we have to change ourselves first. Otherwise, whatever technology you have, people are also going to take advantage of it. So we must change in order for us to be able to have something credible that will benefit the country and will benefit every one of us. For me, I think that's it. So it was not about whether this paper document, you must have it, that one, you must have it, this technology, you must have it. We have the technology, it doesn't work, what do you say? We have so many things in Nigeria that we brought in because they have worked elsewhere. They didn't work in Nigeria. And I think those are the kinds of things, but it has to do with we Nigerians. So until we decide that we want to do good and do right and make it right, then it will work. E-transmission or no e-transmission. We didn't have e-transmission in the 60s and the 70s, and then it worked.
You know that you are both a beneficiary of elections and a custodian of democratic legitimacy. You're second-time governor. I don't know if you are going to the Senate like some of your colleagues have done, but I'm sure you're interested in your successor. If you were contesting today, would this framework give you full confidence in the outcome, win or lose? I'm talking about e-transmission.
Definitely it will. It will. I will feel comfortable if there is something like that, because, election is not a do or die thing. You may win, you may lose. So once I join into an election, I go in with the two options that I may win and I may lose. But once you decide on that, then that's it. What is killing us is this mentality that once I join, I must win, and that's where the problem is coming from.
All right, you were at the NEC conference where Mr. President spoke strongly on security. He also attended to issues of the economy. Basically, Nigerians are concerned about recent developments, as you've seen in Kwara State. Specifically, coming off this conference, are governors expected to do anything differently beyond, the speeches and the narratives? What is going to happen differently from, our reality as Nigerians?
I'm glad you mentioned speeches and narratives and communiques and that without implementation. For me personally, I'm very impressed with this particular conference, and I think it's the first of its kind that I attended. The reason is because we came out to tell each other the truth, and if you had listened to the speech by the president, you will see the president admitting the challenges we are having, challenges of poverty, challenges of security, challenges of this, and say, how are we going to approach that? You see, in the past, federal government will come up with a policy and then chuck it downwards. Everybody will take it. This is the policy of the federal government, and we go from there. The whole essence of this conference that we had is actually a situation where development goes to the ward. That's why it is called Renewed Hope Ward Development Policy. It's a program that begins from the ward. Nigeria has 774 local government areas, 8,809 wards. So for every one of these wards are being challenged, and the governors are challenged, the private sector is challenged, the chairman of the local government and the management of the local government are also challenged. That now we have to start this development at the bottom. Let every ward, not even state, not local government, every ward come up with its own development plan and say that this is the way we are going. Some places agriculture is it, some places ICT is it, some places, like you mentioned, security is the challenge. Some places, so everybody will pick an area and address it. And we have done something similar like to that in Nasarawa State. Because what we did on Common is to say that you, in this local government, we didn't go down to ward, but we say in this local government, what is it that you prefer? Is it road? Is it support for agriculture? Is it this? And we went from there. And that's why you have seen probably the development in every local government in the state, that we have done. Every time we're having a major project, like the bus terminals and the rest of that, we had consultations with the people. This is what we want to do. Do you like it? Do you believe in it? This is the kind of road we want to have. Some people will say, no, we don't want road. We want water. We want support for agriculture. This is what we want. Some people will say, no, we want light because of the security challenges we are facing. Give us solar power in our local government. This is what we need in so and so community. This one will say, open the areas so that our agricultural output will get out of the area. So these are the kinds of things, and I think this is what this particular NEC conference is addressing. The same speech by Mr. President, followed by the Vice President. CBN Governor went the same way. Today, Oladele, of tax reform also went the same way. The governors, everybody that went on stage as a panelist, commended that and felt that is the way. Now the next is to follow, to ensure we are implementing, because not just to talk about it and then go home tomorrow and forget about it, then it doesn't make sense. So everybody is taking it as a challenge to follow. Yeah.
Implementation is key, but I want to stay with security for a minute, and I want you to be very honest with Nigerians. How realistic are the federal assurances we are hearing on defeating terrorism and banditry in the short to medium term? And I'm talking about specifically in 2026. Do you think we're going to see the end of it?
Anybody who tells you categorically you are going to see the end of something like that, he is not being very, very truthful. One thing that is the case is that are we putting all our best into it to see the end of it? And I think that's the direction of Mr. President. We are going to provide them with the tools they require. We will provide them with the logistics they require. We will provide them with the man-hour they require, with the human resources they need. And then we want to see the end of it. But it's not him that will go and stand at the battle line and say, here is the end of it. We will provide them with the technology. So the willingness, on the part of the leadership is there. The willingness of the part of the president, without any ambiguity, without any doubt in my mind, is there. We have seen it. The resources that are being provided as much as possible, that is there. So, and because of that, they say, where there is a will, there is a way. So this is the fact that this is the hope that we are getting. That's why it is called hope, renewed hope. So that this is the hope we are getting. This is the direction we are doing. We are providing everything possible and ensuring that it will happen. So, but if anybody tells you categorically, we will see the end of banditry in 2026, and I keep telling people, which country is it that has zero insecurity? Which country? Because I'm well traveled, not just travel. I lived in some of these, foreign countries where things are stable. Every day you hear this thing. I went to school in Indiana, Terre Haute, Indiana. One of the cities with the biggest crime that you can talk of is called Gary, Indiana, very close to us. And constantly people are being killed in that city. The same thing very close to Chicago. If you go to Houston, Texas, where I live for most of my working life, constantly there is killing in Houston, Texas, this and that. So, but it is different kind of insecurity. But where you will say that 2026 there will be end of security, I don't believe that there is anything like that will happen. This is because you asked me to be honest, and I'm telling you honest.
I sincerely understand your position, but you know the concern of many Nigerians would be that if we're having abductions at this magnitude and we're not seeing significant arrest and prosecution, it speaks to the sustainability of our strategy and what it means for the coming days and the coming years. But let's take a short break and we'll be right back. Governor Sule, thank you for staying the course on the program. Add to everything we've discussed, it's pre-election year and it's getting busy for you politicians. So many Nigerians are wondering, what is really occupying your minds? Are you still thinking governance? Are you still serious about security? Across the country, including in Nasarawa, we're seeing high-profile defections to the APC. We understand that your deputy speaker just moved, from PDP to the APC. Should Nigerians read this as ideological convergence or some form of political survival instinct ahead of the next election?
I think if anybody says that governance has been shifted to this, because I have heard that statement many times, that now people are not, leaders are not interested in governance. They are only interested actually in politics, in election 2029. And I'm happy you gave example of Nasarawa. One of the biggest problems you have in Nasarawa, closest to Abuja, is driving go past Nyanya, Mararaba, and the rest of that. We just gave that contract. That contract is ongoing at the moment, and we are, by the grace of God, by the end of this year, we are eliminating that contract. We are eliminating that traffic and the problems that we have, there. So this is something we approach it. I just told you about the economic conference that we have. We didn't go there to discuss about elections for 2027. We went there to discuss about the future of this country, the development of this country, the security situation in the country, the mining activity, how do you develop that? How do you make all the wards independent? How do you generate more employment? How do you partner, collaborate, with the various federal government collaborating with the states with the local government with various private sector in order to bring development and the rest of that. How do we diversify our economy? That's what was discussed. That's not politics 2027. So I think it is unfair to say that politicians today are always thinking of that. Now, coming back to high-profile defections that we are talking about, why is that happening? That is happening because a lot of these politicians have seen, clearly that there has been significant improvement in the reforms that have taken place. And so a lot of resources are coming and then people are able to do that. Like any governor, for instance, that will tell you he has not seen 2 to 3 times the amount of revenue that is coming to him, and he's doing that, he's developing. I have visited so many states, and I have seen a lot of massive development that is taking place in some of those states. So some of those people feel guilty to say that the person that is responsible for this reform, who took the bullet on behalf of everybody, and then I'm saying that I'm not supporting him. This is what is happening. And people are believing that this renewed hope agenda is working.
Governor Sule,
I believe that the new economic plan is working. Yes,
why,
that's what it is.
While that is valid, it's also important to note that many of them are coming from a party that is largely disintegrated. They are not sure even if they get a ticket within the PDP, it will stand the test of time and the test of the Supreme Court. I'm sure you're aware that your party now has 29 governors. There are huge concerns that mass defections like this weaken the opposition. Does it worry you as a Democrat?
Yes and no. Okay? The reason why, and I disagree with you earlier from what you said, it is not necessarily because the other party is dying. New parties are coming up. It is not just APC and PDP. There are other parties. There is ADC. Why are people not going there? There are other political parties. So it is not just necessarily because, this is the reason. It is because one of the earlier reasons I have given to you. Now, coming back to your question, am I worried or not? Yes. Why? We will now instead, because no matter what happens, politicians, Once they gather together, there will be disagreement. So the more we now accumulate into APC, just wait a minute, you will begin to see disagreement within the party, not outside. It is going to be intra now. It is not against another party. You know, there is competition. In Nasarawa, for instance, that you have mentioned, do you know how many people that are aspirants that I have running for governor? It's unbelievable, the number. I'm afraid to say it on TV. You know, so this is what is happening. So there is going to be a lot of fight because between all these people. So this is what you have. You know, it's like the Noah's Ark, you know, that you see. So when you have so many people joining, and the rest of that, there will be some disagreements here and there, and some people will actually drop, and the rest of that, you know. So that is, if I'm worried for anything, that's the part that I'm worried. But one thing that I'm not worried about is that we are unison. Nobody I have heard so far saying that I am against voting APC at the presidential level. I have not come across that. The fight is on the other positions downwards. You know, that's what I have heard over and over and over.
At least finally, I found an APC leader who is honest enough to, you know, accept the potential infightings with the swelling number of immigrants, or should I say migrants or defectors into your party. What critics are saying...
All of them, all those names. Yeah.
all of the above.
Go ahead.
What critics are saying of us, Sule, is that these defections are also being driven by pressure, whether subtle or overt. Are you comfortable saying these moves, perhaps in your state where you are sure of what's happening there, are entirely voluntary?
For us, they are entirely voluntary. For us, in my state. And I will be honest with you on that. We are not actually inviting anybody so specially to join us. People actually have shown interest. 100% of the people who have joined were people who actually came to me and say, I would like to join. And then we can arrange it in such a way that, okay, I like to join, but please call me. And then I will say, okay, I'm calling you publicly. Then they will join. You know, so most time that's what you will see. You know, people who want some soft landing, you know, so that it will be okay with them, with their own constituency and their own supporters. But I have not, on my way, gone out of my way in Nasarawa State to say that this politician is so strong, I need to invite him to come back. No. You know, so, and I'm sure so many states are like that. In fact, there are some states that told me somebody is joining, we don't want him to join. And they have discouraged the person joining, they have done everything possible, and some of those people will have to go and lobby in order for them to be allowed to join. This is what is happening.
Let's be frank, how much of this movement is about governance today? And how much is about positioning for 2027? But that's a rhetorical question. I really don't want to hear your answer of that because I know where you're going. I know exactly what you're going to say as governor, as politician. But we have 2 more minutes to go. Nasarawa, I hear, is planning a rally in support of President Tinubu and good governance. Is this a governor's statement or an early optics of a campaign? Because APC knows how to do that. They say it's no campaign, but we see rally of colors and supporters coming to support Mr. President.
No, this is something that has been going on for a couple of weeks now. You know, they have been calling that we in Nasarawa have seen, let me tell you, our very first executive governor and former national chairman of our party, His Excellency Senator Abdullahi Sule, at one of the groundbreaking events in Kefi, he came out plainly to say that, Governor Sule, what you have done in 6.5 years is more than what all the other 3 governors before you have done put together. So when you have something like that, and I keep telling people, we are doing all this without borrowing a naira from anybody. Okay, so people are happy to see that. So people want to say thank you. And I kept trying to delay it because I don't want it to look like psychophancy. But now we have a couple of, it's not just to show our support to Mr. President and his Vice President. It's not just the issue. We are also going to swear in all these Renewed Hope ambassadors. And you know what the work of the Renewed Hope ambassadors is not campaign. It's for them to be able to convey all the good work that Mr. President is doing that a lot of people don't get to know. You know, a lot of people in the villages they don't differentiate between what the federal government is doing and what the state government and local government is doing. So these ambassadors, that's the work that they were designed to do. So we are going to swear them in on that day. And of course, we are going to receive the people you call, I don't know what you call them, defectors or this is up to you with them. So it's 3 events put in one. Right. That's what we are doing.
Governor Abdullahi Sule, we shall have this conversation more often. It's pre-election year. Thank you so much for joining us.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Anytime.
That's our show today, everyone. Remember, you can watch it again at midnight and 6 a.m. tomorrow. I am Nifemi Oguntoye.